Okay, so this is like my story time kind of update on baby Rayland and his birth during this kind of crazy COVID-19 time. Now, he was born on 3/20/20, so it was right at the beginning of the COVID-19 craziness. So I am very blessed that he came at that time and not a little bit later, because it even got even crazier for lots of mamas. I know Larry was able to be with me in the operating room, which was really nice because I cannot imagine not having him there. I think I would just be a basket crazy case if I had to do it by myself. But now I know they have switched it over to if you're having C-section, nobody's in there with you. So I'm very thankful that I was able to have him. But it started as a normal checkup. We went in and they set up these little things on your stomach and they monitor as a stress test for Rayland to make sure he's doing okay in my wound. They were doing that because my blood pressure was going up and I was starting to develop preeclampsia once again, just like I did with Cortland. Now this go around, my blood pressure didn't start getting up high until much later, like in the third trimester. With Cortland, it started like almost at the end of the first trimester, and it was a struggle through the whole entire pregnancy. So this pregnancy went much better, but I did not want to have a C-section. And if you had talked to me at any point during my pregnancy, you knew this, because I just wanted to have him naturally and wanted to go through the experience of having contractions and all that, and I hate having C-sections. I hate C-sections. So, but I was not able to do that. At that checkup where they were monitoring him, they couldn't get the readings that they needed from him for, I don't know if it was because he was moving too much or if he wasn't moving enough, and my contractions were starting also. And so they were like, look, my doctor was not there. He was still on spring break vacation. So they were like, you need to go over to labor and delivery and have them monitor you over there where the doctor can, look more into all this. I'm like, okay. So Larry and I walk to labor and delivery and we go in and they, hook me up in the exact type of thing. Same thing as over at my doctor's office, but they take my blood pressure and my blood pressure is now at 160/99, which is way too high. And so doctor came in, looked at readings, looked at my contractions that were getting even closer together and blood pressure, and she starts preparing me that I probably will have to have a C-section. She said, good thing and bad thing. Good thing is we're going to have a birthday today. Bad thing is you might have to have a C-section, more than likely. So she said, if baby's not here by 5, then we're going to have C-section. So we're going to schedule C-section for 5 o'clock. Like, okay. And this was around noon. And so we get moved to a regular room. And of course, walking in to the hospital, they check your temperature and everything. Like, even if Larry stepped out to go to the parking lot, when he came back in, he has to get retested and re-scanned for fever, and he has to sign off on this thing saying that he doesn't have any of the symptoms for COVID-19. And so we get moved to a room that's kind of like labor and delivery room, and my contractions get even closer together. They're like less than a minute apart. And I have to say, I did pretty well. There was other women there also, having contractions of their own in their own rooms, and you could hear them screaming and having a hard time with that, which is understandable. It hurts, and but I did very well, and I was very proud of myself. But they came in and they were like, look, your contractions are less than a minute apart. But Rayland was not showing that he was coming anytime soon. And my blood pressure was starting to even get higher. So they were like, look, we're moving up C-section to 3 o'clock. And this was at like 2:45, so 15 minutes. So they tell Larry, go drop off your stuff in room 425, and we're going to take her to the operating room. Okay. So they start taking me to the operating room. Larry goes to drop off our stuff. They put the spinal block in, which is just a big needle, pretty much. And that went very smoothly. If you have heard my story of my spinal block with Cortland, it was a nightmare. This one was not that case. He did a great job. But they do not let daddies in for that part anyways, and they didn't even when I had Cortland. So that wasn't a new like COVID-19 policy or anything. But after that, Larry's still not there. And they're about to start operating, and I'm like, whoa, where is my husband? Like, find him. And so they're, of course, going through their little, like, speaker thing that the nurses have, and they're like, oh, we have a lost daddy. He might be in room 425. So they go and they get him. He was waiting there thinking they were going to get him and bring him to the operating room, which is understandable, because how is he supposed to know where the operating room is or anything like that? So he made it in time, and everything was great. Larry does very well during the C-sections. He did very well when I had Cortland, and this one also of staying calm and not freaking out. Many of you might know my husband and know that he kind of freaks out with a lot of minor things like fish and birds and some funny things like that, but he does very well during C-section, and making sure I'm okay and everything. So it went well, the operation, until right when they were about to pull him out. Right when they were about to pull him out, my blood pressure actually bottoms out and goes real, real low. And why that happened, I don't know. But so that transferred to baby when they pulled him out. So when they pulled out Rayland and had him to the side, I automatically knew that something was wrong, because first of all, if you don't hear your baby cry, you know something's wrong. So Rayland's not crying. They have him over there cleaning him up. I can see him cleaning him up, and I'm like, Larry, he's not crying. Like, what is going on? Larry, he's not moving. Like, he's just like a rag doll. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, so I'm starting to freak out. Larry, being wonderful, ends up like stepping in front of my eyesight so I can't see, because he's also thinking the worst, because it didn't look very good. So he steps in front because he's trying to block my view of it, because they're calling the NICU team to run up there and everything, and they're putting oxygen on him and everything. But they end up getting him breathing even before the team got there. This is all happening very quickly, of course. So they got him breathing. Come to find out, the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck twice. So that was one thing. And then the second thing is my blood pressure bottomed out, which made him pretty much just, he wasn't reacting to anything. He was like I said, like a rag doll. So even when they got him breathing, they were sitting there like lifting his arms up and everything, and they just flopped down like he was dead almost. Like, so it was freaking me out. So even they're like, he's breathing, it's okay, they're trying to calm me down, and I'm like, okay, but what's wrong with him, and it slowly, after they kept on picking up and prodding him and pinching him and pretty much just messing with him for a while of getting, I guess, his body back to normal. And they had told me it was because of my blood pressure bottoming out right before they took him out. That's the reason why he was non-receptive and moving around. But after a little bit of time, he was just fine. Even the NICU team that came in, they were there just for a little bit, and they were like, look, he's doing okay. He's just taking a little bit of time to having to adjust. And so then it got, of course, that's when the freak out kind of calms down, and you're like, okay, everything's okay. But he was also really quiet. He wasn't screaming, crying. I remember Cortland coming out, and he was early, he was a preemie, and he was screaming bloody murder. And even when he started breathing and it was just like this. Well, guess what? That's really all he does. We ended up leaving there and going to our room later on, skip a little bit. And, they put me all back together, and we go back to our room now, and he just doesn't cry very much. he just makes these kind of like whimpering noises. That's, if he cries, it's like really like he's super, super mad. Like you didn't get to him. Or even when they like pinch his heel to get blood, like it wasn't till the very end that he was crying. And we're like, whoa, okay. Larry was worried there was something wrong with his hearing because he just didn't cry. His hearing's fine, everything. He's just a quieter baby. We're just not used to it from Cortland, who was very, very loud baby. But the craziness with this COVID stuff comes at this point. So we're out, I am stapled back together, and they, he's doing fine. We're in the room. Well, they are trying to get me to leave very, very quickly. So they come in and they check your temperature quite often. Larry also tried to even leave after that to go to our car to get our luggage, our stuff to bring to our room. They wouldn't let him. They were like, if you leave, then you can't come back until the next day. And Larry was like, but my car is like right there in the parking lot. What do you mean? They were like, sorry, that's the rule. Like, it's after 9 o'clock, and at that time, it was. And they were like, if you leave, you can't come back. Well, Larry, if you know my husband, is very good at convincing. He ended up somehow letting them watch him, like, go to the car, pick his stuff up, and walk back. He was like, look, you can watch me. But he ended up getting our stuff. But they are very, very, very strict. There's no switching out, so Larry couldn't leave and like let one of my kids come to see baby and switch out visitors. No, one visitor and that's it. Like, that's the person for the whole time. There's no switching out. So if Larry left, then nobody else could come. It's just crazy, but understandable. But they're trying to get mamas after having babies out of the hospital as quick as possible. So of course, spread. You sure don't want sweet newborn baby getting COVID-19 or mama who just got out of surgery, of course. So I understand. But with the C-section, you are normally in the hospital for 3 to 4 days. They got me out in less than 2 days. They came in on that second morning. They're like, look, we're going to get you home today. But we're going to take out your staples today, because we don't want you to have to come back to get staples taken out. Usually it takes about a week. You heal for about a week, and then you come back and you get your staples out. Well, this is the second day, like day 2. And they're telling me they're going to take out my staples. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, what are you going to do instead? And they're like, oh, we're just going to put these steri strips, which are just like really good Band-Aids, pretty much. We're going to put extra of those to make sure, everything stays together. Do not lift anything more than what baby weighs, which baby was like 7 pounds. So I'm like, okay, I understand. You don't want me coming back with all this, COVID-19. I can do this. I've gotten my staples taken out before. I just went through another C-section. I've gone through contractions now. I'm good. I got this. That hurt. I'll tell you, that hurt. That was pretty painful, of them pulling out the staples out of that fresh skin. And I am not on, I also don't like taking pain meds. The hardest pain med I like taking is Tylenol, pretty much, or Advil, because also, especially with baby, I don't like taking pain meds that make me sleepy, because then how are you supposed to take care of baby if you're falling asleep or sleep through him crying and screaming? So I'm just not a big fan of pain medication. So I'm not on any really pain meds besides a couple of Tylenol when they're pulling out these staples and then putting on these steri strips. And I mean, I'm crying, and there's Larry, holding my hand and everything. But they end up putting these steri strips. So I am going home with pretty much being held together by Band-Aids is how I felt. Like, if I bend or twist too much, then these Band-Aids are going to come off and I'm just going to split open in 2. That's what I felt. So came home. That was very stressful and everything. But I did pretty well. I'm doing okay. Baby is here. He's healthy. Everything's good. So that is my little crazy COVID-19 pregnancy update. He came. The only crazy part that was different would be the fact of how much they monitored Larry and his temperature and everything every night, and he had to sign off, and then them taking out my stitches so early. And then with his checkup, that was pretty neat with his pediatrician. So they go back at a week to get a checkup and then a 2-week checkup. At the week checkup, you go in and you have to wait in the parking lot with baby, in the car, and you call them and say, hey, I'm here for my week checkup. They call you when the room is available. You go in, you don't wait in waiting room, you just go straight to the room and they come and do the checkup. And then you leave out the back door and you go back in your car. And so you never wait in the waiting room at all. And they also, at his pediatrician, they only take the checkups in the morning till noon. And then from noon to 1, they sanitize the whole place. And then from 1 to 5, they take any sick kids at that time. So that babies coming in have no contact with sick kiddos and possibly COVID-19 kiddos. So I feel like my doctors and everything, pediatrician, they have taken great precautions to make sure that he didn't get anything, that I didn't get anything, and so far has been wonderful. So that has been our little update. He likes his head being rubbed. I don't know, it's kind of strange, but he likes it. But I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is staying safe. Family or friends that might be watching this, and my students from school, I miss you all. I miss getting out of the house. I know y'all do too. Quarantine is driving us all a little nuts. I can say that we have enough toilet paper. We're good on that at our family. But I'll probably be posting some videos of some fun COVID-19 quarantine games we've been playing here at the house with the kids, just because you got to fill up your time somehow. But y'all all have a wonderful day and stay safe and stay healthy.